erase him, 30 deep, a whole orchestrated hit. But what they didn't account for was that Charleston White doesn't disappear quietly. He doesn't negotiate in whispers, and when the smoke clears, he doesn't ask for permission to talk about it.
Why? Because James Prince.
That single line, that's the accusation that changes everything. Not just about a beef, but about how power actually works when nobody's looking.
I will be calling the FBI in the morning to file a report.
Because for Charleston, this isn't about surviving, it's about exposure. And in the next 20 minutes, we're going to break down exactly what went down when one man decided to challenge an empire, and the empire decided to answer with bullets instead of words.
I don't give a damn if he's dead or alive.
This is what happens when you push Charleston White into a corner. This is what an empire sounds like when it realizes its grip might be slipping. Before we get to the bullets, we need to understand the board. J. Prince isn't just a name in rap. He's not just a label boss who built Rap-A-Lot into a legendary institution. He's something more dangerous. He's a mythology. For decades, Houston whispered his name like it carried weight, like saying it wrong could get you hurt. Mob ties. That's the phrase everyone knows. That's the banner that's supposed to mean something. Order, protection, a hierarchy where knowing the right people keeps you breathing. But here's where it gets tricky. J. Prince built that reputation partly on his business acumen and partly on something else entirely. Whispers, favors, the kind of power that moves quietly, the kind that doesn't need to explain itself because everyone's already afraid of what might happen if they ask the wrong questions. Then Charleston White showed up. And Charleston White has never been afraid of questions. Charleston White has built an entire brand on asking the loudest questions at the worst possible times. He's a contradiction walking, a former gang member turned activist, a guy who lived the streets and now critiques them on a microphone. He's got credibility with the streets because he lived there. And he's got credibility with people tired of myths because he refuses to bow to them. For years, Charleston had been chipping away at the J. Prince brand. Videos, rants, Instagram lives, breaking down the mob ties mystique. But it was all academic. It was all talk. It was noise that fit into the Houston ecosystem because Houston had space for different voices arguing different angles. Until it didn't. Until a youth mentorship event became a pressure point. Until the mayor's office supposedly got involved. Until phones started lighting up with warnings disguised as concern. And until Charleston refused to sit down and shut up about it. That's when the temperature shifted. That's when whispers turned into plans. That's when J. Prince and his son, J. Prince Jr., who's been pulling strings in his own right, allegedly decided that words needed to stop. And that's when they sent people to Fifth Ward with guns. Here's what we know. Charleston White showed up to Fifth Ward, Houston's territory, mob ties territory, the place where names are supposed to matter more than anything else. He showed up alone. That part is critical. He showed up outnumbered, outgunned, and deliberately, because that was his whole point. If the myth is real, it shouldn't need 30 people to enforce it.
Yeah, I showed up by myself in your hood.
That's not bravado. That's psychological warfare disguised as a statement. He's saying, I came to the heart of your power, alone, and dared you to do something about it.
Not only did they shoot at the car, they called 30 mob ties.
And they did something about it. 30 people. 30. Think about the logistics of that. You don't pull 30 people together by accident. You don't coordinate that on a whim. That's an operation. That's a decision made from the top. That's J. Prince or someone acting on his authority saying, handle this problem. But here's what's crucial. They didn't kill him. They didn't even catch him. They shot. They missed. Or maybe, and this is where it gets darker, they didn't actually want to kill him. Maybe they wanted to send a message. Maybe the message was, leave. Maybe the message was, we can touch you. Maybe the message was, stop talking. Charleston, however, translated that message differently.
I told you I was in your city. I've been showing you my exits, my location. Who does this?
He's not just recounting the facts, he's highlighting the psychological angle. He announced his presence, he made himself a target, and they still came with overwhelming force and still missed. To Charleston, that's not a failure on their part. That's proof that the myth cracks under pressure. But the shooting itself, that was the spark. Because now it wasn't just a beef. It was attempted murder. It was a federal crime. It was evidence. And Charleston White, a man who's built his entire operation on the idea that nothing should be whispered, that everything should be screamed into microphones until it echoes in courtrooms, had proof that the empire was willing to use violence. What happened next wasn't a rant. A rant is unhinged. A rant is emotional overflow. This was calculated destruction. Charleston went on Instagram Live. And for the next extended period, he didn't just talk about the shooting. He connected it to every angle, every suspicion, every whisper that had ever circulated about J. Prince's reach. He weaponized the ambush.
But the Fifth Ward by myself, and a nigga wouldn't even take a plane get me. Not only did they shoot at the car, they called 30 mob ties. Mob time. Them showed up 30 deep, and all they wanted to do was to plead with me to apologize to James Prince.
Wait, stop there. He's saying they wanted him to apologize. That's the part that matters. This wasn't about robbery. This wasn't about a random shooting. This was about J. Prince's ego. This was about Charleston White's refusal to respect a hierarchy that supposedly everyone in Houston has to respect. The more dangerous accusation comes next.
James Prince sent a representative.
That word, representative. Not a gang member acting on his own, not a random person with a grudge, a representative, someone acting on orders, someone sent with a mission. And from there, Charleston pivots to the accusation that would eventually land at the FBI's door.
I will be calling the FBI in the morning to file a report. Why? Because James Prince sent a representative. So I will be going down to the FBI office in the morning to put this in documentation, because we know he had Takeoff killed.
Now he's connecting everything. The shooting, J. Prince's alleged reach, and the biggest tragedy in recent Houston rap history, the death of Takeoff from Migos. Takeoff was shot and killed in November 2022. It remains unsolved in the public eye, but there have been whispers, deep, dark whispers, that people with connections knew something, that maybe the shooting wasn't random, that maybe it had to do with money, or beef, or a situation that went sideways. And Charleston White is on live, in front of however many viewers, saying J. Prince had something to do with it. And he's saying he has information.
Wanna rap a lot? People called me and gave me information. I stayed for 3 hours, my nigga. Just to show these niggas I really think I'm bad. I don't weigh nothing but 125 pounds, 5'8", one eye, with a hip that's taller than the other. I stayed in that bitch for 3 hours in Fifth Ward watching them take pictures.
He's claiming direct access to information about the Takeoff case. He's claiming people close to Rap-A-Lot reached out to him. He's building a narrative where J. Prince's reach extends to unsolved murders, to the very skeleton of Houston's rap hierarchy. But then he shifts, because the ambush matters more than the accusation. The ambush is proof.
I don't weigh nothing but 125 pounds, 5'8", one eye, with a hip that's taller than the other. I stayed in that bitch for 3 hours in Fifth Ward watching them take pictures, watching it pull up, and then a big old nigga with some muscles go come up there. He think we in sale together where he can scare me to apologize.
He's physically describing the moment. He's painting the picture of being outnumbered, outmatched, and completely aware of it. And then what? He didn't back down. He didn't apologize. He stayed for 3 hours in enemy territory, alone. Because that's his entire thesis. If the myth were real, if J. Prince's reach were as absolute as everyone pretends, this wouldn't need to happen. Words would be enough. A phone call would be enough. The weight of a name would be enough. Instead, they sent 30 people with guns. And he's going to make sure everyone knows it. Now, here's where most people in this position would stop. They'd make the accusation, they'd call the FBI, they'd let the legal system play out. Charleston White, however, is not most people, because his whole point is that the legal system is already compromised. So he goes nuclear. He doesn't just attack J. Prince's actions, he attacks J. Prince's character. He attacks his family, he attacks the mythology by desecrating what he sees as false reverence. This is the moment where you can feel the calculation stop and pure rage take over. Or maybe it's all calculation. Maybe Charleston knows exactly what he's doing, making the insult so personal, so vicious, that J. Prince or his associates will have to respond, because silence at this point might be worse than any confrontation.
I don't give a damn if he's dead or alive.
He's not leaving room for negotiation. He's not leaving room for a sit-down. He's not leaving room for the kind of quiet handling that would normally be how this resolves in Houston. He's burning the bridge so completely that the only way forward is escalation or complete submission. Then he pivots to the most dangerous angle of all, J. Prince's legacy itself.
I travel around this country with no security, no protection, and I done disrespected Crippin' Blood, BGBD, J. Prince, everything y'all think is dangerous, I done spit in his face.
That line right there. Spit in his face. Whether that's literal or metaphorical doesn't matter. The claim is that he's violated every code, every tradition, every unwritten rule of respect that's supposed to govern Houston's streets, and nothing happened to him. He's still alive. He's still talking. He's still on Instagram Live with thousands of people watching. To Charleston, that's proof that the myth is hollow. To J. Prince, that's the kind of disrespect that demands an answer. But here's where the story gets even darker, because Charleston doesn't stop at just the beef. He layers in accusations about institutional involvement. He claims the mayor's mayor's office called. He claims the gang unit made contact. He claims the Houston Police Department is bending around Jay Prince's name.
Police department told me, hey man, you got a problem with Mr. James Prince. Charleston, we hear you got a problem with James Prince. Like a bunch of...
Now, whether this is true or not, the accusation is devastating because it suggests that Jay Prince's reach isn't just street level, it's governmental, it's municipal, it's institutional. It means the very systems that are supposed to protect people from mob violence are compromised by the existence of mob ties.
I just got the call from the Houston mayor's office and the gang unit police department in Houston, Texas. They are scared of...
He's not asking, he's not implying, he's stating directly that law enforcement contacted him about his beef with Jay Prince. And his response? He's telling the police department itself that he doesn't care about their intervention, that he's not going to stop, that he's bringing federal authorities into this whether they like it or not. Now, there's one accusation that circles back through everything: the Takeoff case. Takeoff from Migos was shot and killed in Houston in November 2022. The case has never been officially solved, but there have been rumors, whispers, suggestions that it wasn't random, that maybe it had to do with Rap-A-Lot, that maybe it had to do with Jay Prince's world. Charleston White steps directly into that void.
Because we know he had Takeoff killed. We know he had Takeoff killed for the illegal gambling, and I got information.
He's claiming direct knowledge. He's claiming someone inside Rap-A-Lot's orbit reached out to him with details. Whether that's true, exaggerated, or completely fabricated, the accusation is now public. It's on the internet. It's connected to the shooting incident, and it reframes the entire conflict. After all of this, after the shooting, after the rant, after the accusations about the mayor's office and the Takeoff case and the institutional corruption, what did Jay Prince and Jay Prince Jr. do? Nothing. They don't post. They don't clap back. They don't send out statements. They don't show up. They go completely silent. And that silence becomes the most confusing, most dangerous message of all. Because in a normal beef, the accused person fights back. They defend themselves. They call the accusations lies. They mobilize their people to defend their name. But Jay Prince doesn't. His son doesn't. And that absence of response creates a vacuum that everyone in Houston is staring into, trying to figure out what it means. Some people read it as strength. They think, this is what real power looks like. A man so confident, so untouchable, that he doesn't even dignify accusations with a response. The silence is a flex. It's a statement that Charleston is too small, too irrelevant to warrant engagement. Others read it differently. They see the silence as strategic retreat. They wonder, if he's innocent, why doesn't he just say so? If the accusations are lies, why doesn't he defend himself? The silence becomes guilt by absence, and Charleston uses that silence as proof. He's framing the silence as confirmation. The mayor's office calls, the police respond, the media covers it, and Jay Prince just doesn't engage. To Charleston, that's proof that the myth is too fragile to withstand direct confrontation, that the crown is made of whispers, not concrete. By the time Charleston finishes this extended rant, Houston is split. On one side, you've got the old guard, the people who grew up on Rap-A-Lot, the people who remember when Jay Prince actually shaped the culture, shaped careers, shaped the sound of Houston itself. They look at Charleston's accusations and they see disrespect. They see a man who didn't earn his place trying to tear down a legacy that was built over decades. They bristle at comparisons to Malibu's Most Wanted. They don't see mob ties as a myth. They see it as a real organizational structure that protected the culture and the city. These people read Jay Prince's silence not as guilt, but as maturity. They think that's what happens when you reach a certain level. You don't waste your time on people like Charleston. You let them talk, you let them burn out, and you keep building. On the other side, you've got the people who are tired of myths, the people who think power should be questioned publicly without fear. They look at Charleston's accusations and they see someone finally saying what everyone's been dodging. They see someone holding a mirror up to a system that's gotten comfortable with its own legend, and they're not sure whether to believe all the details, but they believe the essential point that Jay Prince's reach extends further than most people admit, that there's a connection between street authority and municipal influence that most people pretend doesn't exist, that Houston has a system, and that system protects certain names. Charleston's not necessarily disproving mob ties, he's reframing it. He's moving it from legend into accusation. And accusation changes everything because accusation demands accountability. But Charleston doesn't stop. He keeps pushing, because for him, every moment of silence from Jay Prince is fuel. He starts breaking down specific incidents. The youth event that supposedly got shut down, the mayor's office call, the gang unit warnings. He takes each one and he expands it, details it, reframes it as evidence of institutional corruption. He's not asking anyone to believe him, he's telling them. He's stating it as fact on a live stream with thousands of viewers. And once something is stated stated that publicly, it becomes part of the conversation whether it's true or not. Then he goes even further. Now he's shifting the frame entirely. He's not just accusing J. Prince of orchestrating violence. He's accusing the entire city of bending around J. Prince's mythology. He's saying Houston has structured itself around a myth, and that structures built on myths eventually collapse. And that's dangerous, because if you convince enough people that a myth is all that's holding up a system, they'll start pulling at the threads just to watch it fall. So here's where we are. Charleston White is still alive. He's still talking. He's escalated his accusations from street disrespect to federal crimes. He's claimed the mayor's office is involved. He's claimed the police are compromised. He's claimed J. Prince orchestrated the shooting and possibly the takeoff murder. J. Prince and J. Prince Jr. remain silent, and Houston is waiting to see what happens next, because this story has reached a point where it can only go two directions. Either J. Prince has to respond, and any response now will look like an admission that Charleston got under his skin, or J. Prince stays silent, and silence continues to be interpreted as confirmation by everyone who's decided the myth is hollow. The FBI angle is still looming. Charleston claims he's going to file a report about the shooting. Whether that actually happens or whether it already has remains unclear, but the fact that he's made it public means that even if J. Prince's connections can protect him in Houston, there are federal authorities now aware that he's been accused of orchestrating violence.
I will be calling the FBI in the morning to file a report. Why? Because James Prince sent a representative.
That's the line that changes the game, because it means Charleston has weaponized institutional involvement. He's not just fighting street power, he's bringing federal authority into a local beef. And once that happens, the whole calculus shifts. J. Prince built his empire on the idea that Houston is his town, that his reach is absolute within certain boundaries. But if the FBI gets involved, if federal authorities start investigating, then suddenly his reach becomes limited. Suddenly, the boundaries he's built don't matter. And suddenly, every whisper, every accusation, every connection that Charleston has made becomes subject to actual investigation instead of just street gossip. But here's what we need to understand about this whole situation. This isn't really about Charleston White and J. Prince anymore. This is about something bigger. This is about how power actually works in major American cities. The question Charleston is asking, the question that makes this story dangerous, is how much power is too much power? How much reach is too much reach? And at what point does a name become more powerful than the actual person carrying it? These are questions that cities avoid asking, because once you start asking them, you have to start answering them, and the answers are usually uncomfortable. J. Prince has built something real. Rap-A-Lot is a legitimate record label with legitimate artists and legitimate cultural impact. Mob Ties is a real brand, a real network, a real structure of relationships. That's not a myth, that's concrete. But the legend around J. Prince, the idea that he controls Houston, that one name can move entire systems, that political and police power flows through his approval, that's the myth that Charleston is attacking. And that's the myth that, if true, represents a dangerous concentration of power in one person's hands. Charleston's not necessarily wrong about that. He might be exaggerating the details, he might be conflating correlation with causation, he might be building a conspiracy theory out of reasonable concerns. But the underlying point, that J. Prince's reach extends further than most people publicly acknowledge, is probably true. And that truth, once it's spoken out loud, can't be unspoken. So where does this go from here? Option 1, J. Prince comes out and responds. He breaks his silence. He defends himself. He addresses the accusations directly. But if he does that, he's legitimizing Charleston as an opponent. He's admitting that Charleston is significant enough to warrant a response. And in the court of public opinion, a response can look like an admission. Option 2, J. Prince stays silent. He lets Charleston keep talking. He maintains the posture of a man too powerful to be bothered by accusations. But silence has a cost too. Every day he doesn't respond, the vacuum gets filled by speculation. Every week that passes without a statement, more people start wondering if there's something to what Charleston's saying. Option 3, J. Prince makes a move we don't see coming. And given the initial response, the alleged shooting, that's the option people are actually afraid of. Because here's the dark reality. Charleston White has made himself a target. He's accused J. Prince of orchestrating violence. He's claimed federal crimes. He's gone on live stream and called him out repeatedly. He's attacked his character, his family, his legacy. At a certain point, if all of that is true, or if J. Prince believes it's damaging enough to be true, then letting Charleston keep talking becomes a liability.
Damn. I mean, At this point, if they weren't going to kill him before, they're for sure going to kill him now.
That's the reality of the situation. Charleston has escalated past the point of normal beef. He's in actual danger territory now. And whether that danger comes from J. Prince directly or from someone acting on his behalf, the threat is real. He's accepted that risk. Because for him, silence would be worse than danger. Because if he stops talking, if he backs down, then the myth wins. Then the system of quiet power, of whispered connections, of myths that control reality. All of that gets validated. And Charleston White has built his entire life on the refusal to validate that system. And somewhere in Houston, the question that started this whole thing remains unanswered. Is mob ties real power or a myth people pretend to believe in? Is one name enough to control a city, or is that just a story we tell ourselves? And what happens when someone calls that story a lie and doesn't back down? And that silence will echo long enough for people to fill it with whatever they already believe. That's the power of this moment. That's why it matters. Because once a myth is questioned this publicly, once an empire is accused this directly, once the idea of absolute power is challenged on a platform where thousands of people are watching, that myth can never be as powerful as it was before. Whether Charleston White survives this, whether J. Prince responds, whether the FBI ever files charges, the narrative has already shifted. The story has already changed. And Houston will never quite look at mob ties the same way again.